Have you ever been standing on a subway platform, the wind of the approaching train hitting your face, and for a split second, a terrifying thought flashes through your mind, a thought to just step forward? You aren't suicidal, you aren't even depressed. In fact, you were having a perfectly normal day, but that thought felt so vivid, so visceral, it left your heart racing. Psychologists call this the imp of the perverse or intrusive thoughts. They claim it's just a biological glitch, a momentary misfire of neurons in the prefrontal cortex. But what if that explanation is just a comfort blanket for a much darker reality? What if your brain didn't generate that thought at all? Welcome to the human radio theory, a chilling paradigm shift that suggests your skull is not a vault, but a highly sensitive biological antenna. For decades, we've been fed the narrative that consciousness is a private, internal broadcast, generated locally within the folds of our gray matter. But as we dive deeper into quantum biology and electromagnetism, a different picture emerges. We are living in a chaotic, invisible sea of frequencies. A constant buzzing soup of digital signals, satellite pings, and something much more ancient, residual emotional energies. When you experience a thought that feels alien, dark, or completely out of character, you might not be thinking at all. You might simply be receiving. You are the radio, but who is the one holding the microphone? Who is broadcasting into the silence of your mind while you sleep? Today, we peel back the layers of our private reality to reveal the invisible grid that has been tuning our minds since the day we were born. To understand how this is possible, we have to look at the hardware inside your head. The human brain is, without question, the most complex electrical device in the known universe. It contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each firing electrical impulses thousands of times per second. This activity creates distinct frequency bands that we can measure with an EEG: alpha waves for relaxation, beta for focus, theta for deep meditation, and gamma for high-level processing. But here is the part your biology textbook skipped over. Your brain isn't just an electrical generator, it's a magnetic receiver. Inside the human brain, specifically in the cerebellum and the pineal gland, researchers have discovered millions of microscopic crystals of magnetite. These are the same magnetic minerals used by migratory birds to navigate thousands of miles using the Earth's magnetic field. They are the same crystals used in early, primitive radio receivers to catch signals out of the air. This means you are biologically hardwired to interact with the electromagnetic spectrum. If a simple copper wire can catch a radio signal from across the world, what makes you think the billions of intricate, firing neurons in your head, swimming in a mineral-rich fluid, are immune to the waves vibrating through you right now? Modern science tells us that we only perceive about 1% of the total electromagnetic spectrum. We are effectively blind and deaf to 99% of what is actually happening in the space we occupy. We are walking through an invisible blizzard of information, millions of data points passing through our bodies every second. Our biological radio is constantly scanning this static, looking for a frequency to latch onto. And sometimes, it latches onto something it was never meant to hear. The Earth is not a dead rock, it is a vibrating organism. In the 1950s, physicist Winfried Otto Schumann discovered that the Earth's atmosphere has a natural pulse, a frequency created by the thousands of lightning strikes happening every second between the surface and the ionosphere. This is the Schumann Resonance, a steady, low-frequency hum of exactly 783 Hz. For millions of years, every living thing on this planet evolved in perfect synchronization with this 783 Hz beat. It is the master clock of our biological systems. It regulates our sleep, our moods, and our healing. But look around you today. In the last 100 years, we have shattered that ancient harmony. We have wrapped the planet in a dense, suffocating mesh of artificial frequencies. High-voltage power lines, 5G towers, satellite arrays, and billions of Wi-Fi routers are screaming at frequencies millions of times stronger than the Earth's natural pulse. This is what theorists call the quickening. We are living in an electronic static, so loud that our biological antennas are being jammed. This is why global rates of anxiety, insomnia, and ADHD have exploded in the digital age. Our brains are frantically trying to tune into the Earth's soft, healing whisper, but all they can hear is the jagged, high-pitched scream of the digital grid. When the sync breaks, the radio begins to glitch. It starts catching crosstalk from other stations, random, fragmented, and often dark signals that we mistake for our own inner voice. If a thought is essentially a frequency, a burst of electromagnetic energy, then we have to ask a terrifying question. Where does that energy go after the moment has passed? According to the first law of thermodynamics, energy cannot be destroyed. it can only be transformed. This brings us to the stone tape theory, a hypothesis that suggests the physical environment can record high-intensity emotional events. Imagine a room where something truly horrific happened, a moment of pure, unadulterated terror. That event wasn't just a physical act, it was a massive spike in electromagnetic output. Theorists argue that certain materials, like limestone, quartz, or even the iron ore in a building's foundation, act as a cosmic hard drive. They absorb the broadcast of that trauma and store it within their molecular structure. When you walk into a haunted location and feel a sudden crushing weight on your chest or a burst of unexplained anger, you aren't necessarily meeting a ghost. Your biological radio is simply decoding a high-intensity residual recording that is still playing on a loop thousands of years later. You are picking up a broadcast from the past. This explains why children, whose antennas are more sensitive and haven't been tuned out by the world yet, often see things adults cannot. They are receiving a signal that we have forgotten how to decode. You aren't walking through a silent world. You are walking through a library of unplayed screams, and your brain is the only device capable of turning that static back into sound. If you think the idea of a human radio is purely science fiction, you haven't looked into declassified government archives. During the height of the Cold War, intelligence agencies weren't just building bombs, they were building mental keys. In the early 1960s, a phenomenon known as the Frey effect, or the microwave auditory effect, was discovered. Researchers found that specific pulsed microwave frequencies could bypass the human ear entirely and be heard directly inside the brain as clicks, hisses, or even spoken words. This became known as V2K, voice-to-skull technology. For over a decade, the American embassy in Moscow was bombarded with a steady stream of low-level microwaves from a nearby Soviet building. The staff couldn't see it, feel it, or hear it, but their bodies reacted. They suffered from mysterious blood disorders, chronic fatigue, and cognitive decline. This was the birth of neuroweaponry. Today, we hear about the Havana syndrome, where diplomats report hearing strange buzzing noises followed by immediate brain trauma. If governments have known for 60 years how to beam information directly into a human's neural receiver, what makes us think they stopped? We are currently living in a world of silent sound spread spectrum, technology, invisible signals that can plant a thought, a craving, or an emotion so subtly that you would swear it was your own idea. The radio in your head is being tested every single day by broadcasters who never asked for your permission. We are the first generation in human history to never experience true electromagnetic silence. From the moment of conception, we are bathed in a digital fog, but there's a biological catch that makes this even more dangerous. The pineal gland, often called the third eye, is the primary seat of our internal antenna. It is responsible for producing melatonin and regulating our sense of time and connection to the Earth's frequency. However, modern lifestyles are systematically breaking this antenna. Through the combination of fluoride in our water, which causes the pineal gland to calcify into a hard, stone-like state, and the constant bombardment of artificial blue light and 5G millimeter waves, our natural ability to tune into high-frequency states is being destroyed. We are being forced into a state of lower-frequency existence. This is why the world feels so polarized, so angry, and so drained. Our radios are being jammed by design. In this state of neural static, we become susceptible to low-vibration signals, fear-mongering news, divisive social media, and basic primal urges. We have lost our ability to hear our own intuition, that quiet, steady signal from our higher self, because it's being drowned out by a billion digital voices screaming for our attention. We aren't just losing our privacy, we are losing our frequency. There is a final, darker layer to the human radio theory that borders on the truly terrifying. Esoteric researchers and ancient traditions from the Gnostics to the shamans have long warned about archons, or flyers, entities that do not have a physical form but exist as pure information and frequency. These parasites of the mind cannot interact with our physical world directly, but they can broadcast into our neural receivers. They feed on the energy produced by intense human emotions, specifically fear, guilt, and rage. If they can plant a thought in your head that causes you to spiral into anxiety, they are essentially harvesting the electromagnetic burst your brain produces in response. This is the ultimate shadow radio. When you find yourself caught in a loop of self-hatred or sudden, violent, intrusive thoughts, you aren't just having a bad day. You are being tuned by something that needs you to stay in a low-frequency state to survive. They aren't monsters hiding under your bed. They are voices hiding inside your thoughts. They wait for your station to drop into a fearful state, and then they overlap their signal with yours until you can't tell the difference between their hunger and your own identity. So where does this leave us? Are we just helpless receivers, destined to play whatever song the world chooses for us? Not necessarily. Every radio has a dial. The first step to freedom is the simple realization that you are not your thoughts, you are the one listening to them. The moment you begin to observe an intrusive thought instead of identifying with it, you are essentially changing the station. This is the ancient power behind grounding, literally putting your feet on the earth to dump the excess digital static back into the ground. It is the power of silence, of sensory deprivation, and of deep meditation. We must learn to clean our antennas. We must learn to distinguish between the static of the world and the signal of our true selves. We are living in a time of a great tuning. The noise is getting louder, but for those who know how to listen, the truth is still there, vibrating in the quiet spaces between the words. The next time a whisper enters your mind in the dead of night, don't argue with it. Don't let it define you. Just breathe, reach for the dial, and change the channel, because you were never meant to be a slave to the broadcast. You were meant to be the master of the frequency. Stay silent, stay grounded, and most importantly, stay tuned.